Ready? I'm joined today by African royalty. I have with me today Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Kenya. And I am Brother Sage, and I want to welcome everyone to the studio in this wonderful discussion, and thank the two of you for being here in America with the YALI program, class of 2017 at Notre Dame. And I also want to thank my friend on my right for being a good friend for the last 20 years, who comes from Kenya. African and African Americans really do not talk that often. Why is that?
You want to go first?
Well, I kind of asked myself the same question since I got here, because I've been finding it very difficult to connect with the African American people here. It's funny, because in my country, we follow what's happening here, with the African American community so well, so much. We love their movies. We love their culture. We have boys who admire Black African Americans. They copy what they do. Everything about them. They love. Some people, they will tell you, I don't watch any other movies, only African American movies, because I love watching them. They love their diction. They love to hear them talk. They love everything about them. Me coming over here, going through some of these experiences, what I'm taking back home is quite different. Because what I've seen, what I've experienced is different. The love we're showing the African American community back home is different from what they are giving to us here. And I keep asking myself the question, why is that? What's the difference? We are kind of connected back home, but it seems that like there's a disconnection here. So something is not right. There is a breach in the communication. So for me, I think that's where the problem is. The communication. Something is not. If there is a breach in connection, then there has to be like a termination. The termination has taken place somewhere. So the connection is not establishing. So for me, that's what I think is the problem, is the main problem. And my experiences here with the African American community, I wouldn't say it has been all good. I've had some really bad experiences. Let me just share this quick one. It's a quick story. My friend and I, we went to Barbici the other day to get some pasta, because we were really hungry. We wanted something to eat. So on our way, we saw a bunch of African American young guys. They were sitting down, and we went past them. So they saw us when we went into Barbici and got the pasta, and we came out. So when we came out, when they saw us walking back to the dorm, like when they saw us coming out of the restaurant, they started laughing. Like all of them, they were laughing hysterically, and they were laughing and looking at us funny in that kind of funny way. So we noticed. So, but of course we didn't care. So, and when we approached them, they stopped us and like, "Oh, dude, how's it going? Where are you from?" So we answered them like, "We're from Africa." Oh, and then they got up and started laughing. They found it very funny. And then they said, "You went to Barbici to get pasta?" And then we said, "Yeah, we're hungry." And they continued laughing. I was like, "What are the guys? What are they laughing at?" It was funny. Then it got to me that they wanted us to get some chicken wings, baby back ribs, and ice coke. That's exactly what they want. So it's funny for them. We going into
a black guy going to
a black guy going to
a white guy
and an African guy for that matter. So that was what came to mind, and that was why they were laughing. I found it very, very not cool. So, but of course we walked away. We continued walking, myself and Bright. So we walked away and we talked about it. Like, this is the kind of, and that's just one of the incidents that happened to us. Another incident was we went to a club, and Arabesque Palace, we were sitting there, we were having fun, so it's like a completely African American club. So we thought like we could be very comfortable. We could fit in, you know.
Yes.
So we were there, we were having fun, having a few drinks and all. People were coming there. There was the seats were all taken. We were sitting down, so the seats were all taken. So there was this lady who she has been standing for a while, but she like walked up towards where we were sitting. She was looking for a place to sit. So we noticed that she was standing and she was tired. So Bright, my friend, had to get up for her so she could sit. So Bright got up and then she said, and then, thank you very much. So you're here for, what's your name? So the sooner Bright said his name, she noticed the accent that, oh, she's not from, this guy is not from here. So he asked, where are you from? And then Bright said, I'm from Africa, I'm from Zambia. You know what happened right away? She got up and left. Yeah, she like got up and left. So, you know, all of these things, you feel bad when some things like that happen, you know, when you're treated that way, you're treated differently. Some of the guys were kind of cool, but they just say hi to you and you say hi back, and then once you start talking to them, they notice the accent, they just walk away. It's like you don't have anything to share with them. You don't. So, like, I went through it, my friends went through it, we talked about it, and it was really bad for me. So, if I hadn't met people like you, Brother Sage, and a few others that were really warm towards us, like, the whole experience would have been very negative, would have been bad. That's exactly what I would take back home.
Yeah.
So, but for me, I think that's the disconnection. That's the reason why this is all happening.
Together.
Yeah.
Well, let me say real quick before we hear from Catherine. I want to apologize for the way they act.
Yeah, of course.
But they not only act that way with you, they act that way with me.
Okay.
Okay? Because they have not been exposed to the types of understanding that are important to establish the kind of rapport that need to take place.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we don't even know ourselves. They've done everything within the power to keep us from knowledge of who we are. Just recently, you know, there's a movie out called Glory, which dealt with African Americans fighting in the Civil War.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't even know that I had an ancestor that died in that battle until about 10, 15 years ago. And then when I found out, the movie moved me. I thought it was a good movie. It's touching. Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman. But when I found out that was my history, why is that? It took me on my own to find out that was my history, because no schools ever said anything positive about who we are. So there's a major disconnect with the learning system to see to it that we don't know who we are. So we don't know who we are, you know, why would we think about Africa? Okay? Even though that's where we come from. Because we are taught that Africa is something to be ashamed of. And it's not. Okay? So forgive me. For the sake of clarity, you are Mulku
Sulaiman Bangura.
And you're from?
I'm from Sierra Leone.
And you do what professionally?
Professionally, I am currently working as a consultant data analyst for the government. We're hired by the president to monitor exactly what led to the Ebola, the issues, the things that affected, the things that went wrong, and that caused the Ebola to spread the way it spread. And then so we monitor ministries' activities, what local authorities are doing. So our responsibility is to make sure that what the ministries say, what they committed to doing, they do at the end of the day. So we go there, gather this information, and make sense out of it, and then send report back to the president. So before that, I ran a company, a communications company, for 4 years, but we couldn't continue because our major investors pulled out of the whole business, so we couldn't continue. So we were stranded somehow. So I had to shut down the business and look for a job. That was before I got the consultancy job as a data analyst.
And you are a former national basketball player?
Yeah. I played basketball at the national level. I played basketball at the national level. I also played soccer at the national level.
Okay.
So I'm a sport person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the lovely lady to your right.
Hi, Brother Stage. My name is Catherine Morton, because Morton is my husband's name. And my story is whenever people don't meet me, but I send emails to people and I say my name is Catherine Morton and we have a meeting, they're expecting to see a white person. And so I had this meeting with this lady and I went to the venue. She was also at the venue. We didn't know each other. She was looking out for a white person. So it took me like 5 minutes and I'm like, no, this looks like the person I'm having the meeting. And they're like, hello, please, are you this? And they're like, yeah. Like, oh, you are Catherine Morton. Like, oh, like, wow. But my mind was kind of going like a white person. And I'm like, no, it's me. So I want to tell you why I have the name Morton. Morton is my husband's name. My husband's family are freed slaves from America. And so when the slave trade was over, some people decided to go back to Africa. And in my country where I come from, Ghana, the government gave a little bit of land for them to come and settle. And when they left America, most of them forgot their names, the names they had before they came back. And their family's slave master was called Morton, and they used to call him Morton's boy. So over time, he decided to take his master's name. And so that's why their name became Morton. And we have a lot of those people in my country. They have a lot of white names, but then they're black people. But they've integrated into Ghanaian culture, and so they're Ghanaians now, even though originally they weren't from Ghana. So that's how come I have the name Morton.
Okay.
We went to Indianapolis, and we realized that in the Midwest, Morton is very popular. I'm figuring that they come from here. And I saw that, but when I saw that, I didn't, all my colleagues, like, oh, that's Morton. But for me, I didn't experience any joy in seeing the name Morton. And that's very honest, because it kind of like brought back a lot of history that I've read about these people. And, you know, to kind of feel that maybe their slave master was one of these people. And so it brings back a lot of pain, you know, for me. But there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah. So that's my experience. I come from Ghana, and I have 2 businesses. The first one is into sports. We have the biggest half marathon in Accra. It's called Accra Millennium Marathon. We have over 10,000 people who run this race. And my other business is into trade and tourism, trying to promote locally made products in Ghana. I think over 90% of things we consume in Ghana, it's not from our country. Trying to find a place for local businesses to thrive, and because we have good products that people don't know about. So my job is to try and match these people with people who don't know about the product. So this is what I do. And I'm really happy to be part of this YALI program. We thank former President Obama for this vision he had to bring Africans to America to see what is happening around the world, how we can learn and take things back home and make Africa better. What I'd like to say is that Africans love African Americans. Back home, we adore them. When they come home, we're so proud to see them. We like the way they dress, we like the way they talk, and we try to learn from them because we look up to you guys as our bigger brothers and sisters. We feel that African Americans have the opportunity, in a land where everything is possible. And so we try to, like you said, we watch your movies, we like the music, we try to dance, whenever there is a new dance like the dab and whatever, we do it back in Africa because we love you guys. I feel, like you said, that African Americans don't understand Africans.
No.
And because of the way the world has portrayed Africa, like you said, they are ashamed of Africa.
Right.
And so I have a friend who is in America who came from Ghana to America, and she told me that, Catherine, when I came to America, my first 2 years were the worst years of my life because she was discriminated upon. Like, she didn't want to even tell people that she was from Africa because they laughed at her, they made fun of her, they make funny sounds like a monkey and all that. So she quickly wanted to hide her identity. She didn't want anything to do with Africa. And so I kind of understand why African Americans will not want to connect with Africans because they've been told that we live on trees and there's a lot of poverty. We went to this community center to interact with kids, trying to tell them about Africa and where we come from. And the question they asked is, okay, do you live outside? And I'm like, wow, why would children who are 8 and 9 years think that we live outside. And I'm like, okay, I understand, because they haven't been taught any better. They haven't seen on TV. So we actually, what we did was take pictures of our cities to show them that, hey, look, we have skylines in Africa. People live in apartments. People live in nice houses. We drive cars, and we don't live with zebras and monkeys at home. I haven't seen an elephant before, and I'm from Africa. And so I don't blame them too much. I feel that there's an anger that they have. And for me, being here and going to Chicago especially, and seeing how things go and the interactions between other races and Africans, I kind of feel and understand where they're coming from. They've been through a lot. African Americans I see have been through a lot, and they're still going through it. It's like there is no space for them to operate, the way I see it. And when I went to Chicago, I couldn't see any interactions between black people and white people. It's like everyone is moving, and I saw there's a disconnect. Back home in Africa, we don't have that, because we are all one people. We are all black people. We don't have a lot of white people in Africa. We are who we are. So for me, living in SouthBend in America, I feel like I'm different. Because yesterday I entered the restaurant, I was the only black person there. And for the first time I felt conscious that, hey, I'm somewhere where I feel like I don't have to be. So I think I understand where they're coming from. I do now. When I came in the beginning, first week, I was like, no, these people are rude. Like, they don't like me, why? But as I've experienced the culture here, by and by, I think I understand where they're coming from.
It's very difficult to understand. First of all, I want to thank both of you for coming and being the class of 2017 from YALI, and also the interaction that we've been able to establish, okay? We'll build on that in a second. But before we go there, I'd like to bring in my partner on my right, Mr. Joseph Karenja, who comes from Kenya, but has lived in America how many years?
About 30 this time.
30 years. Do you understand what they're saying?
To some degree, because my generation, I'm a little older than their generation. When I was growing up and when I was in high school, we didn't know anything about African Americans in Kenya. I went through elementary school. The country was transitioning from colonial period into independence in Africa. And the textbooks that we were using were still talking more about England. We had to cover the map of England before we understood what Kenya was. The textbooks in history were like the coming of the Europeans. It was very different. I went to the elementary school in the 1960s, and I never heard anything like Martin Luther King Jr. It was later in life on my own when I heard about him. So we didn't have that excitement about African Americans because we didn't even know they existed. When I came here and went to Chicago and found all these groups of African Americans everywhere, I say, what? What are they doing here? Then I started digging into history and knowing exactly what happened, but we didn't know much about the slavery, about the civil rights or anything until I got here. So my take on this whole question about the African Americans and Africa is a little, I've been reflecting on this for quite some time. And let me clear this, my wife is African American. We've been married for over 20 years now, and it is great. I have understood more about African Americans than I would have otherwise. But I think that the causes of this disconnection between Africa and African Americans, I think it's a very deep-rooted problem. Number one, when the African Americans were transported to this country as slaves, they were completely cut off from Africa, something that never happened with any other group that immigrated to this country. Their names were taken away. So that connection, we cannot come here and find Ghanaian names or Kenyan names or Nigerian names or Congolese names. That is a cultural wall that was built. They did not continue using their African languages, so they were completely cut off from the motherland. And when I look at the other cultures in this country, of course, the Europeans have the easiest connection with America because economically, culturally, everything is connected. Europe and America, that world is one. But even when you go into the other cultures, like the Hispanic people, there's a very lively connection between Spanish-speaking countries in South America and Spain and the Hispanic community in this country. Why? Because there is a constant exchange of people. There is constant flow of people and language between those two. Their communities here are being renewed all the time by fresh blood from their old countries. The same thing when you look at the Vietnamese in this country, the South Koreans, the Jews in this country. There is constant exchange of ideas and people and economy and other kinds of things between the old country and here. But when you come to the African Americans, I usually say is the most isolated ethnic group in this country because they really don't have anything that ties them to Africa. And being a teacher in this country for many years, I have experienced a little bit of what they are talking about because when the students hear my accent and realize I'm African, they have all kinds of jokes and ways of letting me know you are not one of us. You are a foreigner. You will not understand us. We don't understand you, and it is a bit trying. But over time, I found my own ways of being able to hold attention on the class and be able to teach. But I can relate to what they're saying. But I think that the roots of this problem is that disconnection, that when we come here, they don't see us as part of them. And we are coming here to embrace them, but they are not ready for that because, again, the images that have been fed with about Africa, about the lions, about the poverty, about the flies flying all over, about all the poverty. They don't see the roads, the cars, the airplanes, the skylines, and all the other modern things that have happened. They don't see that. And so what is going to take is a lot of education.
Right.
Because they're living in a cloud of ignorance about what Africa is.
To me, the beauty of us having this discussion is a couple weeks ago we had an African-American summit where we talked like we're talking right here. And what we're going to propose to the YALI members is that we at least spend a half a day, and we do that. We're also going to propose that we have a social gathering so you can meet people and we can listen to that music and we can dance because Rocky Duwani is one of my favorite musicians, okay? Wow. And in Nigeria, Fela, one of my favorite musicians. People here don't know who Rocky Duwani is. People here do not know who Fela is. People here do not understand why South Africans can dance the way they do. Why we can dance the way we dance. Because they have no connection to the continent. So I feel through the African-American Summit, we can do that. And when you go back to your countries, and when you talk to the two sisters that came from YALI a couple years ago, and when you talk to people from Sierra Leone and from Ethiopia, let them know that this is now a summit, and what we want to do is we want to build and expand, because there are a number of African Americans like I am who would love to come to Africa, who would love to see for themselves, who would love to get to know you and relate to you. They do that in taking us to Germany. They do that in taking us to England. They do that in taking us to Israel. Why can't we do that with Africa?
Yeah.
Why does Africa and African Americans have to stay apart?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can't pull that together. You know, tonight I will be coming to your affair because I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
I'm going to miss you, and I understand tomorrow night you really don't have any plans. And I'm going to even see if we can't get something together, and I get some down people, I call people down, that would like to come and would like to interact with you and let you know how much we love and appreciate you.
Yeah.
Okay? You are what day of the week born?
On Saturday.
So you were what?
Amma.
You're an
Amma.
Amma. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. See, I'm a Kojo.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is my
Yeah.
ancestry.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know, so that's how far back I have gone.
Yes.
Okay? And we do need to do more of that. Our people need to understand the importance of that and the beauty connected to that. Okay? They need to know about Kenya. They need to know about Sierra Leone. They need to know about the elephants. They need to know about the beauty and the majesty of that land, which is the second largest continent in the world. Okay? They need to know that just because you're from Sierra Leone, Ghana, or Kenya, that is not a continent. That's part of a country for a continent that American can fit in almost 4 times.
Yeah.
They know none of this
Yeah.
because there's never any talk or discussion about Africa. Never. But we can talk about that. And what I would like to do is enlist your involvement so we can get more people to do that, because if we don't do it, coming from the continent, it'll never get done.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I think we are down to that. I think it's important. Back in my country, over the last few years, we used to do that. We used to have this summit called Emancipation,
Right.
where we had a lot of African Americans coming to Ghana, you know, trying to go to the slave castles, exploring, learning from, you know, where their roots, you know. It was a good thing. I think it was good, and we kind of have a slowly vibrant African American community in Ghana because of these summits that we are having. And so I do see a situation whereby if this summit were to happen in the next few years, we would start to have a little vibrant African community, you know, here in the US as well, because it has done a lot significantly in Ghana. We do have a lot of them coming back. Some of them are teaching in Ghana. Some of them are married to Ghanaians, and they're building their own community there, you know, embracing the culture. Some of them are more African than I am. I'm ashamed to say that, because they wear African prints. Yes, they wear African prints all the time, and they're really proud to tell you where they're coming from, and it's good to see things like that. And I think it's a step in the right direction to have this African Summit, and we would go back and, you know, get all the past YALI fellows involved in this, and let's see how we can do this.
Well, tell them all Brother Sage said hi, because the last 3 classes I've gotten to know pretty well.
Yeah.
You really going to say?
No, for me it's different because I am the first Sierra Leonean here, so at SouthBend. There haven't been any Sierra Leonean, so I'll be like the first point of contact and the first port of call. But it's I would love to see what's happening in Ghana happening in my country too. You know, I would love to see a lot of African Americans identify themselves. There's this actor Isaiah Washington. I don't know if you
Isaiah, yeah.
Isaiah, a few years ago, I think back in 2002 or 2002 or 2003, he had to do a genealogy test to see exactly where he's from.
Right.
He noticed that his ancestors came from Sierra Leone,
Right.
country, and he's from the Minde tribe, one of the biggest tribes in my country. So since then, he has tried to establish connection back home. He goes back home every year or two just to try to see how best he can connect with what's happening back home. So he's always connected. He's always connected, back and forth, back and forth. So that's the kind of thing like we want to see. We want to see more African Americans identify themselves with Africa, with where we're from, so that this gap disconnects, you know, so there's more education. They know exactly what's going on there. They know that we're not living in bushes. We are not living outside. There's a life there. There's a beautiful life there, beautiful landscape, beautiful countries, with beautiful beaches, natural beaches, lovely people. For me, I think it's funny. The African Americans should know the impact of acting different to another race. Because they've gone through it. They've been there. They've done it. Like they're suffering. They suffer from it, and still some of them are still suffering from it. So I guess they should know the impact of that, and know well that they shouldn't do that
To us.
Yeah, it's just normal.
Rude.
Yes, what you're going through, you know, is so bad, and it's affecting you in every way. Don't do that to another. Another race.
Right.
It doesn't work. You should embrace them and see and show the love. Don't show that you are still affected by what's going on.
Right.
Show the love that you have emancipated. So that's exactly what I think should be happening now. So
I think that when you look back, this desire on the part of the African Americans to connect with Africa has been there, but mostly it has been on the academic level by professionals at universities.
Yeah.
Because back in the 60s, when there was this civil rights movement, Brother Sage has been involved with something we call Kwanzaa here in the U.S. I don't know whether you ever heard of Kwanzaa celebration.
No.
Okay, this is something that was invented by Maulana Karenga, an African-American professor in California, with a number of his associates, that we must find something connect our people with Africa. And they came up with this holiday celebration around December. It starts on December 26th to the 1st of January. It's a 7-day celebration called Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is a Swahili word meaning first and referring to first fruits. And every day has a different symbol. They have corn for one day. They have mat for another day. All different symbols from African lifestyle. And then there are 7 principles that are repeated every one of those days, and seven candles that people have to light every single day. And you start with the first one. There are 3 candles that are red, 3 are green, and 1 is black. And those are colors with many African flags. And you end up with the last candle, which is black, and all the principles, the 7 principles, are all in Swahili. And they have been doing this every year since 1960s. So there's that desire to do it. But when you look around, there are very many families in America that celebrate that holiday. But it has not translated into connecting with the people of Africa and the continent. Because what I would like to see is more of when African Americans think about going on a vacation, to think of coming to Accra,
Yes.
exactly.
to come to Lagos, to come to Nairobi, to Addis Ababa, to Johannesburg. And instead of thinking about going to Germany and going to France and other places in Mexico, and to when college kids think about going to study abroad, to go to the University of Ghana, University of Nairobi, University of Zambia, spend 1 year of inculturation. And I think that what we're starting here is probably a new wave of trying to connect the two. And who knows, it may be a snowball that keeps growing bigger and bigger as time goes on. You never know.
I would be willing to say, we, African Americans, we've all been exposed to what I characterize as neocolonialism. Take away, strip us of all of who we are, and then we stick Hollywood propaganda. Okay? Like, for example, Tarzan's going to get the vine this afternoon. He's going to blow down to South Africa. There are people here who really believe that Tarzan and Jane and Cheetah have more understanding of existence than all the African people who live in huts and what have you, and who have no sense. They don't realize the brilliance of the mother continent. They don't realize the resources. They don't realize the beauty of the people, okay? We have got a massive education job we have to do.
Yeah. In that light, but Sage, I think I'll also love to mention that as Africans, we should be very careful about what we put out there, the content we share, because that's another issue again.
Right.
We have other Africans, major players that have access to the media. They have major media platforms, and they share content, be it whatever content. So I think we as Africans should be very careful about what goes out there about our continent.
Right.
Because what goes out there is what the people can access. So we must start to share the beauty of Africa and Africans. There is no country in the world that is perfect, that doesn't have issues, that doesn't have problems. But you rarely hear these problems. You rarely see these problems in the media. You rarely see what's happening. But every time, all the time, you see content coming from Africa. It's negative content, negative pictures. So I think we as Africans, we also have that responsibility. Those that are out there in the media that have access to this, we should be careful. The filmmakers, the newsreaders, the journalists, the reporters, whoever is developing the blog, the content providers, all of these guys, we have a responsibility to show the world that this is home. This is where the African American community is from. It's not all about wars, it's all about Ebola, all about dying. Developments is taking place. We have a beautiful place, beautiful views. Things are happening. We should show the story, the rich culture of where we are from. Stories that depicts an African culture, the rich African culture, not stories that depict children dying in the streets of malaria, children dying in the streets of tuberculosis. Everywhere in the country, children die of that, But you don't see that because the media is censored. People that are passing this information, they pass the right one. What you want to see. I think that's exactly what we need to do. We need to step up the plate and make sure these media houses, we have control over them and whatever is going out there. So we just need to rise up and start painting the good picture of Africa, on the other side of it. For me, that's what I think we also need to do.
I agree with him, and I think for us as YALI members, we should also be ambassadors of Africa. We need to come here and preach the good news that Africa has to offer, and not come and think that it's all gloomy and nothing good is coming out of Africa. We've suffered a lot from neo-colonialism, like you're saying, and even back in Africa, people are shying away from culture. Like I made a conscious decision that I was going to cut my hair and go all natural because I want to identify as African. Because when I put on the TV, all I see is people with straight hair. That's all I see on TV. People are skinny, and it's like you have the edge to do, So I just got up one day, and it's something that is, it's just a new education. I just looked at everything. I sat down like, no, I'm African. I need to be more African. I'm not competing with anybody. I think people should be able to accept me for who I am, and if you think because of the way I look, you can't deal with me, then I think it's your problem. So we as ambassadors, we have to do better and portray our continent in a good light. Not always saying, oh, we have poverty, we have disease, we need aid, and we need this. We can make it, and I think 25 of us here are proof that even though Africa is not where it should be, we are making it. We can make a change, and sing a new song for Africa. Instead of what has been put out there in the past, and be proud of where we're coming from. I think everyone here has kind of done a really good job, and I'm really proud of my other 24 colleagues because everybody has a sense of pride, when they're talking about their country, and everyone wants what is good for their country. And I think if we keep on doing that, I think we have a bright future ahead of us.
I think there are two drivers for that image, the projection. One is the European model of and picture of Africa. When they go to Africa, they are, and probably we can give them a little benefit of doubt that if you go to a new place, things that you are acquainted with, they're not going to attract your attention. You're going to be attracted to those things that are kind of rare. So when people come to Kenya, which is a major tourist destination, they don't even stay in Nairobi to see the skylines and the busy streets and the street lights and multi-lane roads. They sleep at night, and early in the morning before daybreak, they're out to Turkana, to Masai Land, where the other Kenyans would be delighted to go to those places to see, are these Kenyans too? That's where most of the media is focused on. People who, have maintained their traditions, African traditions, and their clothing and their way of life. But these form only about 10% of the African population. And that's what is fed the people here. That's the Africa they know. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then we have also a group of several Africans who come here seeking for aid. And some of them are supported by churches. And they will go to Africa and take the most horrible, poverty-stricken places and take pictures and bring them, and they become commercials. I don't know if you have been able to see some of the commercials from some of the places. Those are two major drivers, and I don't know how we can stem that tide to let them know that Africa, this last December, I took my family with our 3 kids to Africa for about 2 weeks vacation. And it was a joy to be in that country. It's not the country I left. There are chains of supermarkets, African owned. Mm-hmm. You go in there, you're proud. It's just like in a Walmart or a Target, or the floors are spanking clean. The scanners and the cashiers are just like here. There's a food court, ice cream parlors, fast food restaurants all over the place. 6 lane highways going one way and 6 going the other way. That's Africa today. But who knows about it? Nobody hears about it.
Well, let me say this, if I may, because I know we're rapidly coming to a close. I want you to know that based on the summit that we had a couple weeks ago, that hospitals, universities, common people like myself, like Brother Karenja, Africans living in Michiana, African Americans living in SouthBend, hopefully YALI, Notre Dame, IUSB, St. Mary's, we are going to build a coalition of people to hopefully grow our summit. You all are the ones that have helped start this. And already, Congressman Joe Taylor, that you saw when you went, he is donating money to this cause. Okay. Wow. So we're going to build on it. Okay? We want to stay in touch with you. We want you to stay in touch with us. Definitely. We will share the technology. Now, I may be a little old and over the hill when it comes to that, but I'll try, and I'll pass along to others that I know that aren't. Because what we want to do is we do not wish to stop this. We want to keep this going. And if the people do not want to become progressive to understand the beauty of Africa, that's their fault. There are many of us who do. Okay? You are all very beautiful. We love you very much. And we want to be more part of who you are by not only knowing you, but by interacting with you and introducing people like myself who would love very much to get to know you better. So we want you to know that this is happening and this is real. And we want you to share that with your YALI folk to let them know that more of this has to happen. Because even though you do go to banks, even though you do go to hospitals, even though you do meet with politicians, that there are common people here who want to know you, who want to come to Africa, who want you to come back.
Yeah, sure.
So we can share what we call love.
Yeah.
Because love is the way we have to do it.
Yeah. We will love that.
We will love
I
that.
think we'll do that. And I think when we had the mini summit at the Heritage Center, and one of the things that one of my colleagues brought up, I think it wasn't well understood. He was talking about the fact that who is a better partner to Africa's development than our African American brothers here? Because you guys see everything, you have the technology. And he was talking about a case back home where little things that they need to develop apps and stuff, they can't find it there. It's hard to come by. But if there is contact between Africa, because you guys have the opportunity to receive these things, if there is a link between African Americans and Africans, sharing of such information and technology is easier, because it's easier to go through an African American brother than like someone from another race who doesn't really understand or know us. That was his point. That, for example, maybe something might cost like $5 in America, but back home it's like $100.
Yeah.
So what if you have it and you find a way to send it to me? It's easier and it's making Africa better. So we feel that African Americans could play a really big impact in our development if we have that communication and we find a way to stay together. Because we think that you are a link to making our part of the world better in terms of trying to get information, trying to get technology, and whatever we need to make our continent better. So the summit is good for us, and we will take it back home, and we will really want to be part of it and see where it goes from there.
We want to be part of you.
Moving forward, I think what I would love to leave with with you guys is, I feel that in re-establishing the connection, there has to be more involvement from the African American community. I know you guys are going through a lot. The playing field is not level. You have so many challenges. You have so many things. You also fight through every day to make sure your voices are heard, to make sure things happen. It's true. We are not devoid of that. We understand what's going on. But in that light also, we know there are few who are really there,
like Brother Sage.
Yeah, they have the influence, like you, and others who have the capability and the capacity to do. Those are the people we're talking to. We need like what YALI is doing now. We need like an exchange program, typically an African American exchange program. We need like something like the trade fair. Typically an African American trade fair.
Or host families.
We need like host families
in Africa.
Like in Africa. We need more African Americans supporting children out there, schools out there. It doesn't cost much. I will tell you that. We want to create that opportunity. We want to create like the portal, the connection between what's happening in Africa and what's happening in the US. So for me, that is where I see the summit going. That is why I see in the future. That is why I see the summit going in the future. Creating that avenue that we have a host of Africans. If you want to reach out to Africa, connect with these people. They can take you to places. They can connect you with the right people. And I'm sure, I trust them. They will make you. You feel secure. Go through them for anything you want to do. Go to Africa, invest in Africa. We want to see more African American investment in Africa. They are not there. I'm not seeing them in my country. I don't know for other countries, but they are not there. The Chinese they are running riots in Africa right now. They are really running riots, and in no time there will be total disconnection. If we don't do something, there will be total disconnection. It will be Chinese and Europeans all through. So we want to see that.
To the three of you, I'd like to thank you for coming today, and let's let the love begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Over.
I think she's.
No, she heard it.
Yeah,
She heard it. She's on top of it.
This summit is a good thing.
I think she stepped out. So
She'll be in here in a second. When she's ready for us to completely disconnect, she'll let us know.
yeah, she's.
Mulku,
Yeah?
you know what I'm thinking? This summit that Brother Sage is talking about,
She's
the summit that Brother Sage is talking about, I think that